Trump prosecutors botched this audio debacle. They came out, they told us it was a slam dunk, a home run. We saw all the lefties on Twitter saying, this is it. This is the end game for Donald. There's no coming back from this. He's dead to rights. We got him on audio recording. We had Rachel Maddow talking about Trump was like walking in there and robbing the bank, right? This was hysterical, backflipping, hyperventilation from the usual suspects. But it turns out it's not that important. And we were speculating that it was not that important when we were going through the audio and comparing it to the actual indictment. Well, in spite of all of the enthusiasm for what they heard, I think a lot of people on the left came to the sudden realization that it's not that big of a deal, especially once we confirmed that the audio recording is not even the subject of any of the documents in the indictment, just as we speculated. And so here we see, this is the story that came out right after we were done going through our analysis. It says Iran memo not among the 31 records underlying charges in the Trump federal indictment. So here's the backstory. DOD memo on Iran that's at the heart of the now public audio recording that captured a July 2021 meeting with Trump is not a part of the 31 counts of willful national defense information. You're kidding me. Who could have guessed that? Now, a source familiar with the matter did confirm this to CBS News. In the recording at the meeting, now this took place at Bedminster, New Jersey, and we were paying very close attention to that yesterday. I was saying, what the heck? Did he take the document from New Jersey back to Florida? Is that where they charged him? I don't know. Maybe they did. Evidently, they didn't. First of all, the audio had nothing to do with retention per se. The takeaway from the audio was that he was showing it to other people. That's like the big shiny object. Wow, he's showing it. He's saying, I know it's classified. And we went through a whole list of defenses yesterday. So anyways, now we were all scratching our heads about it, but they were very giddy about this. The document and recording are described in the indictment that Smith's team secured against Trump. This was a big part of it. Recounted as a writer, a publisher, and 2 members of Trump's staff. But according to a source familiar with the matter, Trump was not charged with unlawfully holding on to the Iran-related document discussed in the recording. The 37-count indictment against Trump charges 31 charges of willfully retaining national defense information, except that document. It generally outlines each of the 31 classified records, but the Iran memo is not a part of the list of the 31 records in the indictment, the source said. This was the segment from the indictment itself where they were specifically referencing this conversation as though it's a big deal. And then here is the exchange. Upon greeting the writer, the publisher, and the 2 staff members, there was the following exchange. And we go through the text. In August, when he was no longer president, Trump met at his office at Bedminster Club, commenting on other things. But he also made disclosures of classified information. So this is a very interesting development. It's not related at all. And what that caused is a very serious cognitive dissonance from this guy, Andrew Weissmann. He thought it was a home run and then woke up and realized maybe not. Now, there's more on this before we get to Weissmann. Catherine Herridge, over from CBS, the person who did the reporting on this, says multiple sources previously told CBS News defense attorneys were not certain that the memo in question was ever recovered and returned to the government. All right, so that document, that pamphlet, whatever was being waved around there, first of all, it sounds like the DOJ doesn't have it. And it sounds like they don't even know what they did with it. So was it classified at all? Don't know. Was it anything serious? Was it literally a magazine that somebody threw in a dumpster somewhere? Who knows? Former senior DOJ official said, in a way, it might be analogous to trying to prove a murder case without a body. Yeah, tough to do. Not easy to do it that way. And that's exactly why people like Hillary Clinton smashed their cell phone devices and their hard drives with hammers before they turned it back into the State Department. Or why different servers were cleared out with BleachBit. Right? If it's destroyed, not recovered, it's hard to charge you with a crime. So it's a very interesting dilemma there. Now, I want to pay special attention to a great comment from our friend Julie Kelly. She posted this. She said, a little reminder that Jack Smith is not only included portions of the July recording in his indictment, which is a very shameful thing to do, right? Like, you shouldn't put in a bunch of stuff that you can't prove or that's not relevant to the case. It should be directly relevant to the charges. So if Trump's waving around one of the 31 documents that he was actually charged with, okay, then you can talk about this conversation. But he's not, and you don't even have the document. So you're just talking about audio that sounds bad, that infers that maybe something bad happened, but that you don't have any evidence for, which is a really disgusting thing to do if you're a prosecutor. But of course, we're dealing with Jack Smith and the special counsel. So he stated as facts that the documents shown during the meeting were in fact classified. So Julie has this great point. I hope Team Trump forces Smith to prove his allegations on this matter. And so she gives us this highlight from page 2 of the indictment. And let's go back to that and just take a quick look at what it looks like and emphasize the point she's making. But Jack Smith, this is his allegation. He signs this with his team, promising, swearing an oath and an affirmation to the court that there is probable cause here, and that they presented all of this in good faith to the grand jury, and that the grand jury found that everything was done above board. This is where Julie Kelly points us. She says, look, on 2 occasions in 2021, Trump showed classified documents to others. He's claiming that they are classified as follows. The first one in July 2021. And at another one, Trump showed a representative of his PAC who did not possess security clearance as well. So this first one, this is the audio recorded meeting. But guess what? This happened in Bedminster, New Jersey, first of all, which is outside of the jurisdiction of Florida, which is where this case is being brought. That's number one. Number two, they don't have any actual evidence that this document is highly classified, because apparently they don't have possession of the document. So this sounds like it's just made up. It's like dishonest. You were making an inference that doesn't exist, Jack Smith. Why would you do that? Did you present false evidence to the grand jury? Did you imply that you were in possession of this document, but you're not in possession of this document? Trump's people are going to have a lot of fun with this when the filings get started. And so shout out to our friend Julie Kelly. Now, I want to share this with you because this is just hysterical. The left hyperventilating about the Trump audio, and we heard this one previously in this post-audio climax, and then we're going to fast forward to the next morning, the hangover, when you wake up and you realize who you've got next to you, and you're like, what did I just do? And in clearer terms, more specifically, what did Jack Smith just do with this indictment? Here is Andrew Weissman from the before scene.
Jack Smith's team here when they listen to this.
Well, it's important for everyone to remember they have had this. In other words, we're learning about this, but they have the tape. And knowing Jack Smith, they have interviewed everybody other than the former president who was in that room. They have all of the information about the tape recording, what happened in that room, and everyone's version of what they recall. So you don't put something like this in a charging instrument unless you have this completely locked down.
Completely.
That's just how anybody, and certainly how Jack Smith operates.
Yeah.
And so the big picture here, I think, for people is this is not a tape recording where we need to fly spec it. I mean, this is game over if you are following the facts and the law.
It's over.
He's charged with having classified information and knowing that he had classified information. He's not even charged with dissemination, that is showing it to somebody, but even that can be proved. And the tape recording is absolutely clear. This is a question now of simply, will the government get a trial before the general election? Will a jury actually follow the law and the facts? And will the electorate follow the facts and care? That's really what this is about. It is not about the facts. I mean, you have the former president on tape, and that's just one piece of evidence. And that just think about the search. I mean, like we're talking about tape recording. That's of course great evidence if you're a prosecutor, but that's one piece of a massive mountain of evidence. So this really is not a case now about the facts.
It's done, man. Don't even need to go to trial. The walls are closing in. They've been waiting for this day. That audio is going to finally bring this case to a close. You see, Rick, pretty euphoric, pretty kind of at the top. He's like, man, almost a little woozy. This audio is going to be the end of this monster. And then something happened. Got a good night's sleep, got to think about what the audio actually said, maybe read the transcript, recollected in his brain, dug in there deep and remembered some of those law school principles. And then this is what he said when he woke up. And he looked next to him in this bed. He's like, oh, gosh, what did I do yesterday? He's looking at his text messages. Oh, gosh. Here's what that sounds like.
The thing that's a little unanswered is the indictment describes this incident at Bedminster in detail, but it doesn't charge it, meaning that there are 31 documents that he is charged with illegally possessing, and the document at issue here is not one of them. It doesn't mean that the tape is not admissible. I think it will be admissible. But I'm wondering why Jack Smith didn't also charge this, because you have good such strong evidence of this particular crime with respect to this particular document. And there are a whole bunch of theories people have been tossing around, including myself. But that's the one I would say, weakness. If you are the defense, that's like the little bit of a argument you might have, which is you get to tell the jury that, yes, okay, whatever, this may be very strong, but it's really, nothing related to these 31 documents. This is for something that happened in New Jersey, not in Florida.
Yeah. Oh, man. That sucks. A little bit of a different attitude, huh? They're probably still hungover from that audio. What's going on over there? Well, I'm glad they're up to speed. I'm glad they're catching up with the rest of reality. Good luck to them. Now, they take this out of context conversation for which there is literally zero evidence and no charges in the indictment, and they try to spread that around the media to show the media or to show America that Trump is this nefarious evil monster when it's just a rumor. It's not even connected to the charges. So the question is, who leaked this? And will there be repercussions for the person who leaked it? Because we know that Donald Trump has a whopper of a protective order that has been wrapped around him such that he can't even take his notes home. When he reads a police report or any of the discovery, which I'm going to guess is massive, he can't even take notes about it back to his Mar-a-Lago residence. Good question. Who leaked it? Don't know, but Alina Habba might.
So before I go to the legal ramifications as well as the DOJ potentially leaking, I know the former president is a charismatic guy. He invites people in to Mar-a-Lago. He invites them into Bedminster. He likes to chat with them. But clearly there's a fox in the hen house. What's going on?
No, I think there's more to that story that I can't get into that might be privileged. There's an
Who recorded this conversation?
Even if I did know, I wouldn't say at this point. But here's the good news. We know who leaked it, and that's the DOJ. Because I didn't have it. The DOJ did. They keep everything close to their chest until they realize they're losing and he's leading in the polls. So then they leak something and tell the American people, listen to what he said. Well, let's think about what he said. He said exactly what the Presidential Records Act says. A president has the right to declassify documents. Who doesn't? A non-president, a senator, like Joe Biden, when he had classified documents and took them out 40 years ago, 30 years ago, and had no right to do it.
But what is the judge saying? Because if this is true, that the prosecution, the Department of Justice, would leak this information, there has to be some consequences.
Oh, there better be some consequences.
Has there been any contact with the judge to discuss this?
If there has, it's privileged at this point. A lot of things are under seal, but I can tell you who hasn't done any leaks and who has been listening to everything the judge said, and that's Donald Trump, who President Trump was told by a judge he can't talk about any of the evidence.
Right.
So explain to me how then evidence is being leaked the week that Hunter Biden is getting indicted or misdemeanor charges for things that he should have been going to jail for, let's be honest. And if it was a Trumper, would have gone to jail for. But nobody talks about that. What do they want to talk about? Trump, 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 submarine. Oh, I know. Release a tape. Release a tape saying what? That the Presidential Records Act allows a president to declassify documents. He is the only person that has the power to single-handedly do that. That's what the tape says.
Alina Habba delivering some brilliant legal analysis. Absolutely, the DOJ leaked it. Now, when she was speaking, I was thinking about other possibilities. Who else may have leaked this document? And we don't really know who recorded it. So, again, this could have been an audio recording. I'm trying to play devil's advocate in our minds here. But let's say there's a journalist in there who's writing the book on Mark Meadows. It could have been the journalist who recorded the audio. And then the journalist would have been interviewed by the DOJ. The DOJ would have gotten a copy of the audio, and the audio would have been delivered to the DOJ, and they would have included it in their indictment, which I think is disgusting, by the way, because it's not even a charged issue, and they don't have evidence. So this would be like somebody saying, talking about maybe like robbing a bank or something like that. Not even that is a good example, because Trump's waving around something and making some statements about something that he might have lawfully absolutely been entitled to have, right? So it's not even a good example. But the point is, she is articulating that this came from somewhere. Did it come from the journalist who was interviewing Meadows, right? In other words, they could have given it to the DOJ, and then the author could have also leaked it to the media. But I really have a hard time with that. I got to imagine that that prosecutor told the journo, this is our evidence now, right? This is evidence that has been used in a criminal investigation. Do not disclose this out. So I think she's right about it. I think it has to be the DOJ. And I am hopeful that the judge, Eileen Cannon, does tease this out and get to the bottom of it, because this is just the beginning. This stuff is going to continue to happen as this trial moves on. But the bigger point, as Alina explains, is that this is really election interference. This is the Democratic campaign. Joe Biden can't hardly talk. He thinks we're still in war with Iraq. and that Putin is losing over there or something. And he's having a hard time reconciling his family's criminal history with media questions. So a lot is happening there pretty quickly. And they're going to have a hard time putting him on stage and having him communicate anything to anybody because he can't talk. And Trump has momentum, enthusiasm, and charisma behind him. So what their campaign now shifts into is a campaign brought by the DOJ, and it's election interference. And here's Alina Abba explaining.
They've become so desperate that they need to use the media to play into their hand for the 2024 election, as we've seen. But what happened was we forget that there was a judge order that nobody, including President Trump, could discuss any evidence. Now, President Trump hasn't needed to discuss evidence because we're not desperate. We know the facts, and he did nothing wrong. They're desperate. So what are they going to do? They're going to taint the jury pool. They're going to taint the American public's perception and try and say, look, here's a tape. Here's a tape of saying what? A president can declassify documents. I'm no longer a president. I can't declassify documents now.
But what to the people that say he says on the tape that he can't declassify it? It's his top secret and he can't declassify it.
He wasn't president at the time of the tape. He couldn't declassify. He knew that. But he wasn't saying it wasn't declassified. He was saying presidents can declassify. As a non-president, you can't. That has nothing to do with it. It's a red herring. It's exactly what they're doing. They take cuts and pieces, just like the indictment. They put it together and they make the American people believe the story, like La La Land, that they create. It's not in fact. There is no two sides. It's just one side, and it's pieces. You know, it's a recording.
They've been trying to muzzle.
And it's a media effort. In a court of law, you have the right to confront your accusers. You have the right to present evidence. You've got the ability to cross-examine people. There's process. Trump has his hands tied behind his back. He can't comment on any of this stuff. But the DOJ is allowed to selectively leak piecemeal one at a time to continue to further their narrative. And people are going to start asking, is this jury tampering? You know, is this them trying to interfere with the entire process? Trump got a gag order from his Manhattan prosecution. He can't talk about it. He gets out there and starts truthing about this stuff. He could be dragged into court on an order to show cause and held in contempt. But is any of that going to happen to the DOJ? We'll see.